but we have some big breaking here. As a reaction to all of that's happening in Kashmir Valley, you have Congress's Digvijay Singh now slamming the BJP, first asking the BJP to give proof on the surgical strikes that they carried out. Digvijay Singh says government has claimed surgical strikes were carried out, but the government has no proof to prove what happened. They only spread lies and only lies. Digvijay has also slammed the Kashmir Files movie, saying this is the government's plan to keep the Kashmir problem alive so that they can endorse movies like the Kashmir Files and they can spread hatred in the country only for votes. Have you ever seen a Prime Minister of any country promoting a movie? But Prime Minister Modi went to promote Kashmir Files. This is Digvijay Singh's comments even as the Bharat Jodo Yatra enters Kashmir Valley. Here's the Congress slamming the BJP, questioning them on several levels. Digvijay Singh asking for proof on surgical strikes. The Congress at it yet again. In fact, here Digvijay Singh asking, or rather alleging, that the BJP attempts to keep the Kashmir issue burning deliberately so that they can make movies like the Kashmir Files and endorse it to spread hate in the country and gain votes. Digvijay Singh asking if any Prime Minister so far has endorsed a movie like the way Modi has endorsed Kashmir Files. This is words coming from senior leader of the Congress party, Digvijay Singh, as Bharat Jodo Yatra makes his way into the Kashmir Valley. And while they meet with the delegation of Kashmir Pandits, you have Rahul Gandhi promising the Kashmiri Pandits of some relief after they expressed their issues before Rahul Gandhi, particularly about not being paid salaries, about targeted killings, etc. The Congress's Digvijay Singh responding, saying this is the BJP's ploy to keep the Kashmir issue burning so that they can endorse movies like Kashmir Files and spread hate. Let me cut across to Gaurav Sawant joining us live for more on that. Gaurav, some really heavy statements, sweeping statements rather, coming in from Digvijay Singh of the Congress party. The senior-most leader says that BJP's deliberate attempts to keep the Kashmir issue alive so they can make movies like Kashmir Files. Have you seen any Prime Minister endorsing a film? That's what Digvijay asks. Your take on that?
So, it's actually very strange that a senior Congress leader, one of the most powerful Congress leaders, Digvijay Singh, should raise questions saying no proof was provided about surgical strikes. The fact that surgical strikes were carried out has been acknowledged even by Pakistan. Both surgical strikes after Uri and airstrikes after Balakot. In fact, very recently, just a couple of days ago, Pakistan's Deputy Foreign Minister Hina Rabbani Khar, in an exclusive conversation with India Today's news director Rahul Kanwal, mentioned the Balakot airstrikes, saying it's the first time since 1971 war that fighter jets crossed the international border and bombed Balakot. So Pakistan is conceding that airstrikes took place in Balakot. That's point one. Point two, Pakistan's former Interior Minister, also their Federal Railways Minister Sheikh Rashid, he conceded after Uri that surgical strikes had taken place and that Indian Army had struck inside Pakistan. So the enemy has conceded that surgical strike had taken place. What bigger proof can there be? And our colleague Shiv Arur, he's written very extensively about it. He's interviewed those officers who were involved in the surgical strikes, who carried out the surgical strikes, and there are details where, the conversation with those army officers, the number of terrorists killed, the multiple locations where those surgical strikes had been carried out. It wasn't restricted, it wasn't symbolic, it wasn't just at any one location, but south of Pir Panjal and north of Pir Panjal, those strikes had taken place at multiple launch pads. We have the exact number, but unless the army gives it out, or maybe, Shiv, after talking to his sources, so surgical strikes had been carried out. A large number of terrorists had been killed, not a small number, and certain artifacts had been brought back as evidence by the army. We are aware of it, but perhaps the army doesn't want to give out those details, but we are aware of those details about terrorists killed, launch pad targeted, and the fact that in the cover of darkness that surgical strike was carried out. One soldier incidentally was injured when he accidentally stepped on a landmine. By dawn, everyone had come back safe. So there are a lot more details.
Gaurav, we also have SP Vaid, who would possibly give us a better picture on what really happened. SP Vaid, former DGP Jammu and Kashmir, joining us. Gaurav, you have a question for him. Go right ahead.
Oh, absolutely, Mr. Vaid. You've headed the Jammu and Kashmir police. The police was in the loop as far as security was concerned. What more can you tell us, and what more do you make of senior leaders like Digvijay Singh saying that surgical strike or airstrikes, one, whether there was no proof was given of them, and two, it's only to keep Kashmir, the pot boiling on Kashmir?
See, Gaurav, it's very unfortunate that India's opposition raises question on Indian Army's action against terrorist action against Pakistan-based training camps, which was very clearly the surgical strikes were carried out. In fact, it's a matter of pride for the country that Indian Armed Forces did a punitive action against training camps which were being run by Pakistan, and in fact, as per one estimate, more than 300 terrorists were killed in that action. And instead of questioning the Indian Army, it's better if the opposition questions the Pakistan, questions how they are on the name of Ghazwa-e-Hind playing this dirty game and resorting to Uri attacks like Pulwama, and I don't think anybody needs proof about these attacks.
Okay. Mr. Vaid, stay with me for a moment. Mr. Vaid, we will talk about this in greater detail, but before we, bring in my colleague Shivarur for more on the story, Mr. Vaid, we'll also have army generals who were involved in some of the planning and execution joining us on the broadcast. But let's quickly listen in to Digvijay Singh before I get you much more on this big story.